Hi everyone, Matt Bernier, Dan Illman taking a look back at the Grade 1 Flower Bowl from Belmont Park on Sunday afternoon and weekend wrap, and all of our weekend wrap coverage here brought to you by friends at Fasig-Tipton. This was not a giant field, Dan, and I know it's listed as firm, but they had quite a bit of rain that fell Saturday morning at Belmont Park, and it clearly worked out for Warflag, making one of her first few starts here in North America for Shug McGahee. They break from the gate. You're going to notice there's not a lot of speed signed on, and that's evident when Grand Jeté, I don't have a problem with Javier going on with it, but the fact that Grand Jeté is the one cutting out the fractions.
In several starts in North America leading up to this race, Grand Jeté had never sniffed the early lead. She's on the lead here. You know they're going slow. Zukova, the number 4, was on the lead in her prior foray to North America. That was the man of war against the boys, but she just set glacial fractions over a boggy turf course. And while the fractions here aren't fast, I think they're kind of fast enough, and it takes the starch out of Grand Jeté and maybe an off-form Zukova.
And meanwhile, just a few lengths off right now, you're working at a beautiful trip with Warflag for Jose Ortiz. She's sitting just off the pace, and all along we had talked about this filly where mile and a quarter, it feels like distance was going to be her friend. And you can make the case, maybe not, you can't say that about Zukova, but with Grand Jeté, you wonder maybe she's better at a slightly shorter distance than this mile and a quarter.
So important reading the race advances that our great writers put out on DRF.com and DRF+. Before the last race at Saratoga, and I was really on Warflag in that race, I thought that was a perfect spot for her. Shug was like, well, let's be careful. Those tight turns at Saratoga, I don't really think she likes them that much. She gets to Belmont Park, she's going to be okay. And she ran fine at Saratoga, but a little bit below par to my liking. She loves these turns, but you know something? Trip, I think, made the difference.
You see the middle fraction there, that interior split, they picked it up a little bit.
She's trying to get away, Grand Jeté.
Trying to scoot away, and credit to Jose. I think this was an important part. Get her out into the clear, Warflag, and let her really start running, get into that full stride. There's a part of me, though, when they get into deep stretch, they're both going pretty well, Grand Jeté and Warflag. I wonder if, like you said, that interior split, maybe that took a little bit of the starch out of Grand Jeté.
It certainly took the starch out of Zukova, who is in reverse right now. Grand Jeté, you're right. Usually she's just beginning her run right now. She has been in it from about, I don't know, about the 6 furlongs in. She's digging. Warflag might have the greater stamina as well. You're right, a mile and a quarter might be for her. Here's DeCita on the outside. Again, as usual, she changes back to her left lead late, but I kind of think the race flow helped DeCita, especially when you see that Bowley, 54-1 shot, and a really nice one in her own right. I believe she's going to be sold at Fasig-Tipton after the Breeders' Cup. She only gets beat a length and change for the money, which makes me think you're right. That interior split kind of hurt a horse like Grand Jeté.
Timeform had the mile split coded as red, as though they really started racing there, turning into the far turn. Warflag gets the job done for Shug and Jose Ortiz, $21.20 on the win end. DeCita for Chad runs second, $4.30 to place. Grand Jeté rounds out your try, $2.10 to show. The 50-cent triple comes back, $36.50. Warflag has only gone out, I believe, 7 times in her career, but boy, she really has done nothing wrong ever since Shug has gotten her here. He placed her in an ambitious spot. First start off the bench against boys. She went out there and looked good. She came back in the matchmaker. She ran a giant race that day. Trip may be the circumstance that got her beat there. Saratoga race, okay, maybe a little bit subpar, but boy, she came back here, and we'd always said it felt like 10 furlongs was her going to be her bread and butter.
And we saw it as she was able to wear down Grand Jeté and hold off DeCita, and the fact that she's got a tactical gear. You know, in turf races, we're often seeing horses come from flying from the back of the pack, and they're able to get up. The fact that she's able to place herself in this spot gives her a great advantage always over the DeCitas of the world. Horses that are one-run closers, they need a lot of pace help up front. Warflag is a really solid filly. The Breeders' Cup filly and mare turf is probably next, and I think the problem this year for her, Del Mar, we got to cut back in distance a little bit.
Shug has said that the mile and an eighth, he's concerned that that's going to be too short, and if he had concerns about Saratoga being tight, you're going to get just as tight down at Del Mar, so we'll see if Warflag can transition out to the West Coast successfully. Meanwhile, your runner-up DeCita, Chad Brown has basically said, I don't think that the mile and eight's going to work. It's too short. I think she needs more ground. She is unlikely to go. Also, keep in mind the owners, they also have a filly named Lady Eli, so I think they've got that race pretty well covered. Grand Jeté, though, Chad wants to send her.
I think Grand Jeté deserves a chance. I like her at the shorter mile and an eighth, and we saw in the Beverly D, where she was probably best, if not being stymied down towards the inside in ridiculous traffic. We know she can run. We've seen it in all of her North American starts. Even in this performance, she gave way, but she gave way grudgingly in the stretch. This race was not run to suit her. If you're looking for a sort of under-the-radar horse, because you know she'll be a price in the Breeders' Cup filly and mare turf, Grand Jeté might fit that bill.
Does the buyer situation in this race concern you at all? 98 for the winning horse and the runner-up as well, DeCita. They both are 98s. The time form numbers, though, are on the faster side, the low 120s. I mean, if you believe the 98 or the mid-90s, then they're going to have a lot of running to do. They're going to have to run anyway to beat Lady Eli. But at least the lower 120 time form ratings, that at least puts them in with a puncher's chance. Are you concerned about the buyer being as light as it was?
Not really. I think I'm always just concerned about the overall quality.
Sure.
I mean, I think there's Lady Eli, and then there might be one or two Europeans that come over there that are just going to be, from a class and talent standpoint, just head and shoulders above the War Flags of the world. And that's not a knock on War Flag or DeCita or any of the fillies and mares that competed in the Flower Bowl. It's just that these are hard-hitting fillies and mares that perhaps lack the brilliance at a mile and an eighth to do what Lady Eli and some of these Euros can do.
We have seen horses in the past just fire enormous shots and then come back and kind of be shells of themselves. I know she had so many things go for her when she came over here in the spring and beat the boys. Zukova, when she went back over there, her form has tailed off and she hasn't gotten it back. Did she run so big that day and that was kind of the shot?
I think that was the red flag right there. When she went back and had two races, and she was running against legitimately good horses over there, but she didn't fire at all.
No.
It was almost the sign that, boy, maybe that Man of War just took a lot out of her. How good was the Man of War anyway? It got a giant fig, but how can you make a fig for that race?
Right.
They're going 56 to the half, and she's on the lead, getting all the best of it. The good turf, she needed a lot more rain. This race also probably not run to suit her. I wonder if they had to do it all over again, if Pat Smuller would have went and just said, you know something, Grand Jeté, take a seat.
Sure.
And let's get to the front, let's back down the pace instead of being involved in an enervating third fraction.
It sounds like we should get at least two horses that show up in the filly and mare turf coming out of the Flower Bowl. The winner, War Flag, the third place finisher, Grand Jeté. We'll find out TBD about DeCita, another one of Chad's runners in here. But good on Shug, good on the connections here of War Flag. This is a horse, they brought her over here. They were hopeful for a couple different things. This was the race that the owners and the connections were looking at. They get the job done. They win the Grade 1 Flower Bowl at Belmont on Sunday afternoon with a 98 buyer.